Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand, and it is breaking news that Mason Mount has yet again picked up another injury. A new season, the same old problems, and this is super disappointing. Coming from somebody who was really excited about Mason Mount when he first signed for us, then was really disappointed with the injuries that kept him out for basically the majority of last season. In the pre-season you thought, you know what, he stayed fit, he's got his fitness back, he started the last 3 games, you thought, you know, this is going to be Mason Mount's season. I thought he played well in the first 2 Premier League games as well. Thought he did all right in the Community Shield, but especially in the Brighton game, I thought he was our best player in the first half. I thought in the Fulham game he was really important. And then it turns out that he has got injured again. And it just feels like Chelsea have had us over. That's how it feels like right now. And this is coming from someone who is a massive Mason Mount fan. I think what he brings to the team, he can be a really important player for us. I think in terms of what he's done in his career, he's won a Champions League. He's got a Champions League winning assist to Kai Havertz for Chelsea. You know, number of Player of the Years for Chelsea. And, you know, England international, that's still at a good age, but it feels like Chelsea have had us over. And the reason why it feels like Chelsea have had us over is because Manchester United did pay £60 million for him with a year left on his contract, for him to be injured the whole of last season and now injured again for a number of weeks at the start of his second season. And it just feels like, when are we ever going to get a consistent Mason Mount, which is why we bought him? When are we ever going to get that? Are we going to have to go back into the transfer window on deadline day? Do we have to replace him? Can we rely on Mason Mount for the rest of the season? Or is it going to be another Anthony Martial, another Luke Shaw, when basically you just can't rely on them to be fit, and you kind of just got to have them as a luxury player when they're fit, great, but they're not reliable? They are the questions that you've got to ask, and it's really disappointing. I'm going to be honest, really disappointing, especially so close to the start of the season. Not really any consistency in the games. I mean, 2 games of the Premier League it lasted. It is frustrating, but get all your comments in and we'll go over the injury. And that actually has been a statement from Mason Mount himself. And the first thing I've got to say is, you know, I feel sorry for Mason Mount. It's not as if he wants to be injured, but at the end of the day, it is super frustrating when a player is consistently injured, because as a United fan, you want to rely on these players. And the best ability is availability. And if you're not available, you cannot prove to the fan base why you are worth the number 7 shirt. Why, you know, signing you for £60 million was a good idea. You cannot prove that. So, of course, Mason Mount wants to be fit, he wants to be playing, but it still is super frustrating for the fan base, and probably for Eric Ten Hag as well. And it's like, do you need to replace that figure in the midfield for Manchester United? Rob McCormack straight away with a super chat in saying Scott turnaround with a question mark. You know, Scott's been greeted by a number of fans in Napoli. I think Scott is going to Napoli, and it shouldn't change that deal. It shouldn't change that deal. You know, that's a deal that Manchester United have been willing to do to get the Ugarte deal over the line. Originally, we wanted to sell Casemiro for Ugarte. We've had to kind of shift McTominay. Wish him all the best. Don't really want to spend ages talking about him. But that is the question. Do you go back into the transfer market? I immediately thought, when I seen this news, Rabiot. And I'm not saying, you know, that's a deal I've been massively excited about. I'm not saying that's a deal that I think Manchester United should be all over. And I know people will talk about his age. I think Rabiot is around 29, is he? So, you know, he's not in the Ineos age bracket, but he would be on a free transfer, and he does fill that position. And he is a good player. He was very good in his last couple of years at Juventus, and he was very good for France. Is that someone that Manchester United should be looking at? Because you're looking at the midfield now. As a, you know, centre defensive midfielder role, you've got Casemiro and you've got Ugarte. For that number 8 role, you've got Menu and Eriksen, who we know Eric Ten Hag doesn't really rate anymore. He's literally barely played him, barely. Like, has he played any minutes yet in the Premier League? I don't remember him being on, but Eric Ten Hag doesn't seem to want to use him. And if we could, he's probably someone who we would have shifted. And you've got Collier, but obviously he's young and you've got to try and embed in him. You don't want to put too much pressure on him. Then in that number 10 role, you've got Bruno Fernandes, and with Mason Mount injured, you've not really got anybody else, unless I'm forgetting anyone. So I think dipping back in for a Rabiot who's available on a free transfer on deadline day could be a possibility for Manchester United. And would you do it? Let's actually run a poll on that as well. Let's run a poll. Would you go for Rabiot on deadline day after hearing this news? Would you take Rabiot on a free transfer? And is that something that Manchester United should be exploring? Rob McCormack says, jokes aside, I'm gutted about this. We need Mount. And people don't see the worth in Mason Mount, but I think I won't say proper football fans because it's disregarding other people's opinions, but people who understand football will have understood what Mason Mount can bring to Manchester United if he continues to play the way he has at the start of the season. I think he's been really important, and I think he can offer us a lot. Super important to the press, very good technically on the ball. He's good at taking the ball under pressure. I really like him. Him being injured is frustrating, and we'll talk about the number 7 stuff in a second. I just want to update everybody on the injury that he's got, how long he's going to be out for, and the statement that Mason Mount has put out. So it was actually an exclusive report from Sam C Reports, who reports for the United Stand. Absolutely brilliant, this transfer window. He's been first on a lot of things, picked up on Wan-Bissaka first, number of other things he's been first on, and should be getting more recognition in my opinion. But he had an exclusive before the club announced it, and it is that Mason Mount has picked up a hamstring injury and he's set to be out for a few weeks. The reports further on this are suggesting that Mason Mount could be out for 4 to 5 weeks, which a month. It's frustrating. That's quite a few games, especially at the start of the season. I know there's an international break chucked in there, but that's quite a few games. And then after all of his injuries last year, when he comes back, is it going to be another one where he lasts a few games and he's out again? He really is putting a question mark in a lot of people's minds right now. But Mason Mount seems to be as frustrated as we are, as he's put out a statement directly to the fans from himself, which you never really see when it comes to injuries. With injuries, usually you just get an update from the club. You know, Luke Shaw's injured for this amount of weeks. Luke Shaw is expected to be out for this amount of time. Anthony Martial has now picked up another injury. You know, because they're the names that we're used to in terms of injuries coming out through club statements. But Mason Mount has addressed the fan base himself, and he has put out this statement via Instagram. He has said, "During the last game, I picked up a minor muscle issue. I've had it checked and it looks like I will be out for a few games. Leading up to and during the pre-season, I worked hard to get my fitness back to where it needs to be, and I felt re-energised, sharp and ready. I wanted you to hear it directly from me about how frustrated I am, as I expect you are too. I will do everything possible to be back in the best shape and help the team." So Mason Mount saying, I understand why the fans are frustrated. I should be out for a few games. It's being reported it could be 4 to 5 weeks, and he's going to do his best to get back fit. Like I said, it's not Mason Mount's fault that he's injured again, but at the same time, there's been a lot of fans frustrated in other team members in the past. You know, Luke Shaw being one of them, Anthony Martial being one of them. You know, Varane was injured quite a lot within his first season or so. Like, there is frustrations when it comes to injury-prone players, and the fan base are going to be frustrated, and Mason Mount is acknowledging that. I think what we've got to do here is say, look, you know, have Chelsea done us over? Time will tell. But at this moment in time, it feels like they have. And also, do we need to get someone in on deadline day to fill his position? Because if you look at the past and you analyse what Mason Mount's career has been at Manchester United so far, it's been injury-ridden. For a year now, it's been injury-ridden. Will you be able to rely on him when he comes back from this injury? Probably not. My best guess is probably not, because it feels like it's too much of a coincidence now that he keeps getting reoccurring injuries. Have we signed another injury-prone player, and do we need to replace that figure in the squad just in case? And would you go and get Rabiot? Is there another player you'd go out and get? Get your comments in and vote in the poll as well. We should have put a poll out. I can't see the poll on the chat, but I wanted to put a poll out. Should Manchester United sign Rabiot within the last 24 hours of the transfer window? If we can get that poll running, that would be great. Keel Robinson says, I said we need Amrabat and Rabiot. Amrabat doesn't fill Mason Mount's position, but I still would be looking into that deal. People will laugh at me. I still don't understand why Manchester United haven't signed Amrabat, even if it's on another loan or a really cheap deal. I thought he performed fantastically well in the cup final. I think there is a player there, a squad player, not a starter, a squad player. To be consistent throughout the season, you need a squad, and he's somebody that knows his place. I don't think he'd expect to start, but when called upon, can do a job. We already know he works well with Mainu. He played some of his best games in a partnership with Mainu. You know, Anfield away, got the job done when we got a draw. Cup final, I thought he was excellent, up there for man of the match. Yeah, he had some poor games as well when he was played out of position, and you know he hadn't had a consistent run in the team. But towards the end of last season, when Casemiro, let's be honest, had to go back to centre back and Amrabat came into the midfield, I thought he did all right. I don't know why we've not done that, to be honest, if there is some money there to do it, just as some sort of reassurance. Humphrey says the best ability in any system is availability. Yep, exactly what we were talking about before. Keel Robinson says, I told you all, crazy Keel strikes again. You have been talking about making multiple midfield signings as well. Looks like Rabiot will come in. Should United move to sign Rabiot? Daniel J says Rabiot doesn't work because he wants 200 grand a week and deserves to start, but he doesn't want to be a squad player. Well, he's still not signed a contract. I think AC Milan are interested in him, but apparently he dreams of Premier League football and wants to play Premier League football. Do not get it twisted. If Manchester United signed Rabiot, he would 100% get game time. I'm not saying he's going to start every week, but it feels like with this Mason Mount injury, just PTSD from last season with injuries. With the amount of football games we play and just the bad luck that we've had, United will have injuries this season. It will happen. I mean, Mainu, we're only 2 games into the season and Mainu's already being overused, in my opinion. Mainu is an absolute talent. For me, he's a generational talent and he should be starting. I think he's one of our best players, if not one of our most important players. He's going to be phenomenal, and he already is excellent at his age. But he shouldn't be ran into the ground every single game. You could see in that Fulham game, he needed to come off with probably like 15 minutes to go. Against Brighton, he probably needed to come off with like 15, 20 minutes to go. And we don't really have anyone to put on there. Ten Hag doesn't trust Eriksen, and you can understand why. He's not really got the legs. I mean, you need to make sure that you're rotating players and keeping them fresh. So Rabiot, if he signed, it's not just the starting 11. You've got to look at the squad. There will be injuries. There will be a number of games. We're playing in the Europa League. Ten Hag likes to go far in the cup competitions. He will get game time. The wage might be an issue, but if he was willing to take, you know, and I'm still talking about decent money, I think probably like 180k a week, maybe something like that. That's still a very high wage. 150k a week, maybe. On a free transfer, because we're not actually going to be signing on, like paying a transfer fee for him. We might give a signing on bonus or something like that, but we wouldn't be paying a transfer fee. I think that could be a really shrewd signing and give Manchester United midfield depth, because this Mason Mount injury this earlier on in the season, after all of his injuries last season, is worrying me. And on top of that, obviously you look back at the deal, we paid 60 million, he didn't play last season, and he's on over 200 grand a week. Like, it's just looking like one of them deals where we should have done more checks on this. Mason Mount without injuries, I really wanted that signing. I was sat here on the United stand really happy about that signing. I think he's a top quality talent and I think he's a good player, and he's only 25. Do not get me wrong. I think Mason Mount without the injuries is a really good signing, a really good player. With the injuries, you really do have to doubt the fee and you've got to doubt the wage. And people talk about the shirt number. Yes, you know, people say it's only a shirt number. The number 7's iconic. And for me, this is a lesson for Manchester United. You should never take a number off a player, and I don't believe in that. You'd absolutely shatter the confidence. You know, and if Mason Mount was available weekly, you know, you'd understand it more. But with a shirt number, for me, as iconic as the number 7, you should earn that shirt number in a United shirt. That's what you should do. I never think it should be used as a negotiation to get someone to sign, or I don't think it should be given straight away, unless it is a Ronaldo, obviously. Because Ronaldo, one, had done it in a United shirt before, and it's Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, one of the best players that's ever played the game, if not the best. Up to, you know, I'm not getting into a Messi Ronaldo debate here, but Cristiano Ronaldo for me is probably the best professional football player that I've seen play the game. So it's like, on a tangent, that's where you can give the number 7. But for players coming in now, I never think the number 7 should be just given. I think it should be earned. And when you have done the work in a United shirt, when you have proved you are worthy of that number, then it should be given to you as a reward. Manchester United have made some really poor decisions in the past. I'm going to be honest, they've made some really poor decisions and they've not done things in the right way. People say it'd be used as a negotiation tactic. you shouldn't have to be promised a number to sign for Manchester United, I don't think. So for me, that's a lesson learned from Manchester United. These shirt numbers should be earned. Play well in a United shirt and that shirt could be yours. That aside, I don't want to hold it over Mason Mount's head because, like I said, I think he's a good player when he's fit. But the issue for me is how many times is he going to be injured? Is he going to fall into the Martial category? Is he going to fall into the Luke Shaw category? And if he does, you've got to look back on that signing and think, were United done over and did they do enough checks on that deal? That's something that Manchester United have to learn from. We have to be better moving forward. We have to be. And it's a blow going into the season when our midfield depth isn't really as good as I'd already like it to be. With Mason Mount out and McTominay going, you're looking a little bit thin. And you're looking like, do we need a deadline day transfer within the last 24 hours of the window? I would say yes. If you offered me Rabiot now, I would go for it. But let's see what you guys are saying in the poll. Should United sign Rabiot now? I'm going to say yes, honestly. And 63% of you guys say that we should. So I think that's where we're at now. Manchester United have a decision to make. It's a free transfer. It's not going to take that much money. It's probably going to be quite a hefty wage, but as long as it doesn't break the wage structure and it's not absolutely stupid, I was saying from probably 150 to 180 grand a week, I'd be okay with. I do think he's a quality player. Ten Hag's liked him before. Remember when we first got linked to him under Ten Hag and everyone was like taking the mix, saying, why would he go for Rabiot? Why would he go for Rabiot? Rabiot then went on to do really well for Juventus the last couple of seasons and was excellent for France. He's a ball carrier. He can play multiple positions in the midfield. He can cover a lot of bases. His height is good, fills in for the height that we're losing in McTominay. I think this would be a really shrewd signing from Manchester United in the last 24 hours of the window.
Voiceover
and
on Chrome.
I think they have to do it, if I'm going to be honest. I think they have to do it. I'm just having something coming in my ear then. Don't know what's going on there. A lot of people saying, get your opinions in though. Would you sign Rabiot? Really interested to see what you guys think. Nathaniel says Rabiot is the perfect stopgap player. I agree. A lot of people talking about Rabiot's mum wanting the huge signing on bonus and Rabiot's agent being his mum and his negotiator. Of course, you've got to have conversations with the player. But at the end of the day, what clubs are in for Rabiot right now? It's the last day of the transfer window. Surely he wants to sign for a club, and he will sign for a club, I imagine. But what? AC Milan, I think, are looking at him. Are AC Milan really going to pay a big signing on bonus? They wouldn't pay one for Xerxes. Are they going to pay one for Rabiot? Rabiot dreams of Premier League football. Okay, I'm fine with paying a little bit of a signing on bonus because we're not paying a transfer fee. Don't give him a huge contract and bring him in, as a player that can fill that gap for us. And he will get game time, like I've just said. I don't think this deal should be out of the question. At the end of the day, we are still Manchester United. He will get game time. We'll still give him a decent wage. He'll get to play Premier League football. And he really helps us out in terms of depth in a number of midfield positions, which I think we're lacking in. I think it'd be a good signing, and I don't see why Manchester United can't get that done. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. A lot of people talking about, should Sancho stay now to fill in a potential number 10 position and drop Bruno back? I think that's living in delusion land, if I'm going to be honest. Sancho still, I think, will be exiting Manchester United, or Manchester United will still try to be getting that exit done. Sancho wants to go, and also I don't think Ten Hag sees Sancho as a number 10. I think he maybe sees him a bit too lightweight to play that position. So that I don't think will be a possibility, but I have seen that suggested. Danny H says, Beth, Ricky owes Ten Hag an apology after he said he lied about taking Mount off at half-time because of the Brighton injury. I've actually already had that conversation with Ricky, and he said he was really shocked, and he's still suspicious about it. But yeah, I did have that conversation with Ricky, and obviously it proves that Erik Ten Hag was forced into that substitution. And like I said at the time, when Mount initially got substituted at Brighton, I said I'd be really surprised if it isn't an injury, because Mount's been our best player. It makes no sense taking him off. And I was really frustrated at Erik Ten Hag for doing so. I thought it really killed us going into the second half. We looked awful the first, 20 minutes of that second half. We really did. That first half, even though we went in a goal down, we actually looked good and we looked like a team that should be winning. Second half, when Mount came off, we looked poor, and I thought it really affected us not having him in the team. And I thought either Erik ten Hag's absolutely dropped the ball and made the wrong decision, or it's had to be for injury. So now it shows that it isn't through injury. Obviously, that's a bit of a get-out-of-jail free card for Erik ten Hag, because he obviously was forced into that decision, and it is unfortunate that he had to do that, considering Mount was playing really well. Fred Flintstone says, retrospectively, Mount, Onana, Anthony and Malacia were all a mistake/failure. I think it depends on who you ask, to be honest. I still have hope for Mount, even though it is looking really bleak in terms of his injuries. This is a make or break season for Onana. I think he's started the season well. I don't think he's made any mistakes, really. I think his distribution needs to improve, but I think Onana started the season well, but it's a make or break season for him. This might sound really stupid, but I still have some sort of hope that Anthony can come good. He's still young. Last season, obviously, he had a lot to deal with in terms of what was going on off the pitch. He seems like he's got a good attitude. Last season was an absolute write-off for Anthony, but I'm still hoping maybe... Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's anything close to an £80 million player, I don't. But I'm hoping we can still get something out of him, potentially, this season. Obviously, he scored that goal against Liverpool in the cup game, which was really important last time. Maybe he can get a cameo and do something on Sunday. That's me just thinking positively. And then Malacia, no one was to know he was going to get a potential career-ending injury, let's be honest. No one was to know that. But even before that, I don't think he looked absolutely great. And, you know, it's mad to think he's older than Dalot, Malacia. He's not old, but I think he's 25, 26. How old is Malacia now? Malacia is 25. You know, it's like, he's not like a young kid. It's a point in your career where you really want to be playing, so it is unfortunate. SK says, Mason Mount was looking good for the season. Chelsea has done us, to be honest. Rabiot and a long-term solution. Any prospects? Yeah, Mason Mount was looking good. And like I said, it's nothing to do with his individual talent and ability, why I'm frustrated, and I feel sorry for him. But the fact of the matter is, Chelsea have had us over with the price if he is going to be consistently injured, which it feels like he is going to be at the moment. Being out for 4 to 5 weeks is a huge, huge blow. And we've got Snazzy Studios saying, Onana, it's been good for most of 2024 with a few mistakes at the end of last season. Mount and Malacia were good when they were playing, but they don't play. Anthony, a horrid signing. So thoughts there on the transfers that people are criticising. Anybody else coming into the chat? Yeah, we have 62% saying sign Rabiot and 38% saying no. Just quickly to finish off this short little injury update that I wanted to bring to you guys. Would you rather sign Rabiot or Amrabat? For me, it's an absolute no-brainer. I'd rather sign Rabiot for the position that we're missing. With McTominay going to Napoli, with Mount now being out and looking like he could be suffering through injuries again this season, the profile of player we need, in my opinion, is Rabiot. Can play as a 6, can play as an 8, you know, can play a bit further forward if needs be, creative, can carry the ball well, physical, I think would suit the Premier League. I think honestly, if I was Ten Hag, I'd be knocking on Sir Jim Ratcliffe's door, whoever's door he needs to knock on, and saying, sign me Rabiot, please, within the last 24 hours. It's going to be a crucial squad signing for us. I think that could be a good signing for us. Amrabat, if we had the money, I would like to sign him, but I think Rabiot covers more positions for us right now. Jason Hanna says, bring back Angel Gomez. He's been brilliant over the last 2 years. Congrats to him for actually being called up to the England squad. I think it's long overdue. And obviously, congrats to all the success that he's having over in France, doing really well. So he's not someone that United are going to sign back, but he's doing really well. So yeah, shout out to him, United player. A lot of people saying Amrabat, I think probably because of his performance in the cup final. I would be open to sign Amrabat back, and I think we should have done that if it's the right fee. But if I now had to pick between Rabiot or Amrabat, I would pick Rabiot from what he can offer us. And a lot of people saying Collier deserves a chance. Collier will probably get a chance this season in the cup games. You know, that game against Barnsley is looking like a game that Collier can get some game time in and get that chance to come into the team. But at the same time, you don't want to rush these youth prospects in, and you don't want to put too much pressure on them. So you want to nurture them into the team, which is why I still think we need some more depth. But look, everyone, thank you for watching. A lot of people saying Amrabat's going to Atletico Madrid. I don't think that's confirmed, but I know Diego Simeone's pushing for him. Fenerbahce looking at him as well. Look, like I said at the start of the show, Amrabat for a cheap price would have been worth doing. We know he can play well with Mainoo, has had some good performances, knows his place in the squad. It probably could have even got Rabiot and Amrabat in, but let's be real with ourselves. There's no way we're doing two of them deals within the last 24 hours. For what we need now, with Mount being out and with McTominay going, I think Rabiot is the best opportunity on the market on that free transfer. Let's see if we move. Let's see if we do any deals. Look, everyone, thank you for tuning in. I wish Mason Mount the speediest of recoveries. You know, was so exciting in pre-season. Was exciting to have him back at the start of the season, but it just doesn't look like it's working out, and it is super frustrating for the fan base. Look, everyone, thank you for tuning in and joining us and getting your opinions in. Thank you to everyone with your super chats. Make sure you hit a like on the video before you go. Any updates, we will bring them to you. Ugarte is still yet to be announced. When we will get that, who knows? But thank God we've signed him because we need him. You know, there's a potential where you might see him and Casemiro playing in the midfield together now, and that's definitely an option for certain games. Announcement should be any time, but looking like more tomorrow, I'm thinking. But stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for the 8 PM show as well, and we will see you on the next one.